The big guest stars and big laughs continue on the latest episode of The Connors, adding insult to injury. Let's talk about it. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my Connors review for episode 14 in season 5. This is called Adding Insult to Injury, and it's the latest episode here. A lot of big named actors, TV actors specifically, in this episode, but some big laughs too. Might be, small spoiler for my review, might be one of the funniest episodes we've had this season. So before we launch into it, I want to welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thanks for finding my video. We've got lots of Connors reviews here on the channel. Every single week that there is a new episode, I give you a new review for that episode, and they're all in playlists, so you can go back and kind of check them out at your leisure. But let's talk about this new episode. Right off the bat, let's just say it. Jaden Ray not in the episode, and Ames McNamara also not in the episode, but everybody else. Oh, and you know what? I'm sorry, J.R. Ferguson not in the episode either. I was going to say everybody else from the main cast, but Ben was away, which actually played a little bit into the plot line on the episode, but we also had Neville in tow, Jackie's husband. He was in this episode. So, all right, now that that's out of the way, because we always talk at some point about who wasn't in the episode. We know Jaden Ray is, she's in like 2 episodes a season. But, all right, adding insult to injuries. And even though that's, sort of a common phrase, it does have both plot lines involved in it. So first we'll talk about adding insult. And that is Darlene trying to get a job. And that's where our special guest stars come in. We had Jack McBrayer from 30 Rock as one of the people interviewing Darlene, and then Jamie Presley from My Name is Earl, and more recently she was on the sitcom Mom for several years. She was one of the other interviewers. So Darlene is having a rough time finding work. And they sort of, if you maybe missed part of the season or the last few episodes or whatever, they sort of actually recap it in a very, very natural way in the beginning of the episode, where Darlene says that her former boss at Wellman was checking in on her to see how things were going, since the bigwig at Wellman, Mr. Wellman, had stopped sort of bad-mouthing Darlene all over town in interviews. And Darlene's like, well, I'm still not getting any jobs, so I guess that means, it's got to be something else. It's got to be me. And so as the episode goes on, we learn sort of why that is. There's theories about, oh, well, I'm, an intelligent woman, and, people are afraid of that, and, maybe I'm a little too old. Harris sort of throws that in her face. You're you're getting up there in years, so you're not maybe as desirable. But, once Dan sees her in action at the hardware store, because he basically says, look, Ben's away on vacation this week. Why don't you come in this store? I could use, a little extra help. And he sees her dealing, with a customer, and it is horrible. She's so rude and so obnoxious. And so Dan basically says, look, you're not getting these jobs not because these people are afraid of your intelligence or anything else. It's because of your personality, and she's like, well, they always say to be yourself in interviews, and Dan's retort is basically, well, that's assuming that you actually have a good personality. So jokes like that throughout the episode, a lot of laughs with that, but she decides to change her, appearance. For one thing, she has like this straight black hair, and this demeanor of like, I'm a lot of fun, I love to smile, this and that and the other thing. Oh, you guys, have magic shows, that's amazing. But then, she gets the job, and at the end of the interview, she realizes, look, I can't basically put this personality on for the rest of my life, so let me lay it out for you. This is not the real me. Here's the real me, but here's what I can bring to your company, X, Y, and Z. And she does end up getting that job, which I'm kind of glad about, because I mean, it's fine, she's out of work and everything, but I've been saying this many of the last few episodes, is that her personality has really kind of been unpleasant lately. And I know part of that is probably, she was written this way lately because she's been out of work, and so the character would be stressed out and stuff, and that's fine. But Darlene is always sort of one of the people that you want to root for, kind of underdog thing. And it's been harder and harder to be able to do that, in recent weeks. So I'm glad that they addressed her horrible personality, which has always kind of been, running gag ever since she was a teenager and she was having depressive issues. And Roseanne would always joke, about her personality, and on through to the present. But it was getting sort of downright nasty in recent weeks, and doing things that I just thought, even for her, were a bit out of character and a bit too far. So I was glad to see them kind of reeling that back in and making it really part of the plot, her being difficult, part of the plot. So I love that. But more than that, I really like that she's going to be getting a job. Now, it doesn't start for a few weeks, so we may see, a few more weeks of her struggling or whatever. But in any event, we hopefully will see more with this job, and maybe this will be one that lasts a while. I don't know. I'd love to see Jack McBrayer come back at some point. He's always fun. I was trying to think of this as the episode was on, and maybe you can tell me in the comments. But without looking it up, I don't know for sure. I'm not sure if he's done a lot of sort of live in front of a studio audience sitcom work. Obviously, he's best known, I would say, from 30 Rock, and he has a show on Apple TV Plus called, what's it called? The Sunshine Show, maybe, or something? Hello, Jack, the Sunshine Show. And it's, it's for preschool kids, but it's all about being nice and smiling and being, pleasant to everyone and whatever. Just, positive vibes kind of thing. But that's obviously, not in front of a studio audience either. It's made for kids. The only thing I can think of really is he used to be an NBC page. And because of that, I mean, that's sort of how he got the job on 30 Rock. But because of that, he was on Conan a lot as sort of a sketch player, a bit player, whatever. And that's in front of an audience. But that's a little bit of a different animal, not a sitcom necessarily. Whereas Jamie Presley obviously has been working on Mom the last many years, so she's kind of used to that. But it was interesting to see Jack do his thing with, kind of a live studio audience. But anyway, would love to see more with him, but we'll see. But in any event, I didn't recognize the person who ended up giving Darlene the job. I don't know that actor, so maybe we'll see more of him in the future, if she's going to be working for him. But anyway, so that was that part. A lot of laughs with that, especially there was a great scene at the lunchbox, which actually tied both of the plot lines together, because they sort of were taking place concurrently. But Darlene comes in and says about her personality, not being winning enough to get the jobs. And Harris basically looks at Dan and is like, thank God you finally said something. Darlene makes another kind of comment about, well, what am I supposed to do, about this personality? And one of them, I forget, but it was either Dan or Harris that says, are you going to talk to her or me? You going to take this one kind of thing. I love, by the way, I don't know if I've really mentioned this. I've said about Harris's drinking. She's definitely, the character's been aged up a little bit by a couple of years. I think they sort of skipped 19 and 20 for her, and she just is now 21 or whatever. But she has really, this season, become one of Dan's drinking buddies. Like they hang and drink all the time in these episodes. And I actually really love this dynamic. And you guys tell me in the comments, because I know for a lot of you that I was hearing from for many seasons, Harris was kind of a sticking point. Like, I don't like this character. Her personality stinks, blah, blah, blah. And my defense was always kind of like, look, she's, a 17-year-old girl. Yeah, she's going to be a little difficult, whatever. And look who her mother is, Darlene, also a bit difficult, as we're dealing with in this episode. But this season especially, I think she has become like a cool hang and a cool part of the family. And I love that her and Dan have this kind of vibe going on. So let me know in the comments if you've maybe turned around a little bit on Harris. But all right, let's talk about the other part of the plot, adding insult to injury. So the injury part is Becky sort of complaining about not being able to spend enough time with Beverly Rose, and she doesn't even spend enough time with her to neglect her, kind of thing. But she's having trouble in school and acting up and whatever. Becky slips, and Jackie makes some kind of comment about, oh, you can't sue, it says so on the menu here. But then Becky sort of gets this idea of, oh, well, okay, sure, I'm not going to sue you, but you pay into this workman's comp. Maybe I could have a couple of weeks off to spend time with my daughter and focus on my schoolwork and, whatever. And Jackie actually is all for it. And then she talks to Neville, and he's like, well, first of all, that's illegal. The insurance agents check on that kind of thing. Like, what are you doing? But second of all, you're kind of enabling her. And he has a conversation with Becky specifically about that as well, because Becky is all pissed at Jackie that she sort of is going back on this idea. And to me, I thought Becky was being a little selfish, honestly, especially after Jackie was like, this is illegal. I could go to jail for this, X, Y, and Z. And Becky's only real response is like, oh, so, that's more important than my bonding with my daughter. And it's like, well, kind of, yeah, like, So I was really glad that Neville kind of sat down with her and said, look, don't be mad at Jackie, be mad at me. I told her, and here's why. But also, and he brings up his brother, who is also Louise's brother. Of course, she wasn't in this episode, but they've talked several times throughout the series about this brother that they had that is now passed away, but he was, a big drug addict and an alcoholic and whatever else. And so Neville basically says to her, he was, constantly asking for people to do things for him. And this has been sort of your MO. We get it. You're, single mother and you're doing a great job, but, you're getting all this free childcare and, X, Y, and Z. Jackie gave you a job, and you still want more and more and more, including, her doing illegal things to help you out. And that really put it in a different perspective for her. And I'm glad, because I feel like, sometimes like with the Darlene character, I feel like sometimes she fights things like that when she sees kind of sound logic in her face. But, look, Becky's always been, I think, the more maybe level-headed one or what have you. And so she agreed. She was like, oh my gosh, you're so right, da, 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 da. And I loved that turnaround. And it seemed authentic, too. It didn't seem like it wrapped up too quickly or anything like that. It seemed like that's an authentic conversation. I think when presented sort of with those points that Neville made, I don't think she would have gotten angry or anything. So I really liked that. And again, here, some funny stuff with that plot line as well, specifically with Jackie and everything. So listen, this was a really good episode all around. We just had a great episode last week with Grandma Bev. I think that was probably the best one of the season, but I think this might be the funniest of the season. I would have to rewatch some of the earlier episodes of the season, but I was getting a real kick out of this. And you know what? This just was a thought that I had about Jack McBrayer. I think, and I don't watch the show with regularity, but I think he was doing some guest spots on Call Me Kat, which is also in front of a live studio audience. So I guess he does have a little bit of background work with that, but that just popped into my brain for some reason. But anyway, I really like this episode a lot. Very, very funny stuff. And I seem to give really high grades to like the dramatic episodes, and last week with Grandma Bev and her memory and the really nice moment she had with Jackie. But I'm gonna give this one a high grade too. I think it is definitely a hilarious episode. A lot of really good like sort of character development stuff while just being amusing at the same time, and yeah, we might see Darlene more at this new job, which would be cool as well. So I'm going to give this episode, adding insult to injury, an A-. Another really, really solid episode. So glad to see that. We have 2 more episodes in a row at least, which will be 15 and 16. I think there's 20 for the season total, so we are sort of winding down. We're on the back end of it, but I imagine we'll go through sort of on and off, probably through the beginning of May or something, when usually they do the season finale. So great to see that, and thank you for joining me. We'll see you next week for another Connors review. Bye.